All right, cool. Uh, Welcome to another Crossroads podcast, number 85, I believe. Yeah, welcome back. I haven't done a Zoom chat in a while. Cam, I've talked to you before.
Yep.
James, I haven't met you before.
Oh, no, not yet, but it's good to meet you,
Yeah, I'm Jake. And
James.
and well, yeah, dude. Welcome to the Crossroads podcast. Like I said, I haven't done Zoom chat in a while, so it's good to get back into this groove.
Awesome. Yeah, we like we said earlier, appreciate you having us back on, Jake. It's nice to connect with you
I
again.
appreciate you hitting me up. It's
Yeah,
I have a studio in town now in here in Helena, Montana. So I've
awesome.
started to do some in-person podcasts,
Oh,
which
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, different feel. Yeah, I've been watching your I saw a few of the videos you posted actually and a few of the shots of it. It looks pretty cool. It's nice to have that option, to have people in person or I mean for us it's really nice that we get to connect virtually because like we mentioned earlier, James and I were in and the other guys, Brendan, Dre, and Russ, our producer, were in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. So
Yeah,
it's a little bit isolated in terms of being near other big cities, and so this is we've definitely done that approach where we've done the in-person interviews and different radio stations, magazines, kind of podcasts within Thunder Bay, but during COVID, it was really nice because we were able to connect with you, and we've been able to connect with a lot of other, podcasts and different media outlets, and it helps both parties, right? Where we're able to kind of collaborate and share our kind of networks with one another and get the names out there, right? So
for sure. And hopefully it helps more for connecting, of course, virtually through the internet and people listening. But since we got this new location here in Helena now, my goal is to start to be able, because we have a venue space in the back of it as well. Um, it used to be a church, our
okay,
studio downtown. So there's the stage in the back, and hopefully I'll be able to bring more acts out here. Um, but yeah, Ultimatum, you sent me a new music video
yeah,
recently. No One in the
yeah.
Sky, is that what it's called, right?
Yeah, and actually, it's brand new. That's our second single, so a lot's changed actually since we last spoke. We went through a bit of a lineup shift where we have a new vocalist actually with us earlier this year, and so it's really cool to kind of collaborate and work on new music with this individual. And we did a covers project earlier in the year that I think was released in April. It's called Stereo Waves, and it's on all streaming platforms. And it was really cool experience because James and myself and the other guys were able to work with a few different vocalists because there's so much talent in Thunder Bay, and it was always something we wanted to do. So we were able to kind of do some covers with some of these people, and that's how we stumbled across Dre. And then so far we have a whole full length album coming out. I think we actually discussed early next year, so in January is kind of the goal. But since then we've released two singles from that album, and No One in the Sky is actually the second single, and it was released yesterday. So
Oh,
so it's very new, like it's brand new, and getting a lot of good feedback. And we decided to do kind of a studio music interview, or a studio music video to support that specific single. So the one that I sent you is actually the one that we just released on YouTube, and it's the music video to support the No One in the Sky single, which is available on all streaming platforms now. So
nice. So, yeah, I was wondering that about the lead singer,
yeah.
just because I was like, wait a minute, this ain't the same
So
person. But, that's, of course, how bands are, um, go through changes. So I was
yeah.
curious too, when you said a cover project, did you did you say you had multiple singers or you found your new singer and stuck with one?
So a little bit of A, a little bit of B. We were kind of trying to decide what was going to make sense to kind of jumpstart the next phase of the band, and like Cam said, there's a number of different artists that have kind of come up through the city here and that we've admired and just kind of like have thought, well, it'd be kind of cool to do this or it'd be kind of cool to do that, but do we want to, hitch our wagon, so to speak, long term? And we thought, well, why don't we just give this a shot? We'll bring them in. We'll let them choose a song that they want to cover. So it makes a bit of a challenge on our end to try to learn new songs and maybe step outside our genre a little bit. And through that process, all the people we worked with were fantastic, but Dre really had a drive to him that kind of clued us off to the fact that he might be looking to make this a long-term type of situation. And sure enough, we brought him back. We did one more song with him, sat down, said, listen, we're impressed. What do you think? And I think it took him all of 3 nanoseconds to jump at that. And we've been recording ever since.
That's sweet. I'm a big fan of that. I actually like I have this one record back here that's I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with Slash, like from Guns N'
Oh
Roses
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
Velvet Revolver and everything.
yeah,
Yeah, his recent like cover album was like a blues album that was a bunch of
yeah,
different singers and kind of
yeah.
I'm a fan of that. I think it's an awesome way. Well, it's just probably fun and creative.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Networking is always good.
Yeah, that was actually one of the that came out I think after we did our thing, but I remember they did like a Howlin' Wolf cover,
Oh yeah.
like an old blues cover, right, with Brian Johnson from
Hmm.
AC/DC, and he was singing in a completely different registry where it was super low, but it sounded like Howlin' Wolf, like it was cool, right? So yeah, and for someone like that, like I've been fortunate enough, I saw Slash about 3 times, I think, one with Guns N' Roses and a couple times with Miles Kennedy, and I always
Nice.
admire when artists get to do that when they, take a bit of a risk, right? Because blues music, as much as I love blues music, it's not as popular right now. So it's like a
Oh yeah, for
passion
sure.
project, right? So yeah, which I appreciate. And to your point too, Jake, like there's been other artists that have done that, and James and I would always talk about doing this, right? Like we'd always talk about pulling in not just even vocalists, but different artists, just to do this covers project because we're primarily an original band. So we
Hmm.
don't do a lot of covers. Like we started out, in our early teens doing covers when we were, playing the live circuit in Thunder Bay here. But I mean, over the last 10 years, especially, and more actually, we focused on just original content. So it was cool because, like James mentioned, someone would come in with a song that, we had to learn and basically flip on its head, right? So we take a piano song, make it heavy, but we would suit it to the individual who selected that song, right? And their strengths and their ability to sing. So it was cool because we were able to take these songs that we knew and appreciated, but it challenged us as artists where we had to then come up with a different arrangement. And then it allowed us to work with a bunch of different singers, which was always kind of like a thing that was kind of on the back burner that was like a nice to do if the time ever is available, and it never was. So it was a good excuse to go through this process to find Dre. And then the second part of that whole equation is, can we write can we write together, right? That was the big litmus test, so to speak, right? So Dre had never written an original song
Lyrics?
prior to, and
Yeah.
everything, nothing. Yeah. So he had a riff idea, and he came to the studio, and James and I and Russ, our producer at Thunder Sound Studio,
Wait,
which
he
once
had a
again,
riff idea or you had? You
no,
guys
he
had a
did.
riff? Oh, he did.
He did. Yeah. So we had this idea, like these 2 riffs actually, and he came to the studio and with very, very kind of like bare bones vocal structure.
Hmm.
So, James helped him kind of write out the vocal piece, and then Brendan and I went in the corner and we started working out an arrangement based on the riffs that he had. And next thing it was starting to come together. And I think we had enough information at that point. James and I went in the other room and thought, this is the guy, right? We should probably, ask him if he's even interested, because we didn't know at the time, right? Like we didn't know if he was interested. So,
Uh-huh.
and then so we were able to pop the question, and he was, like James said, it didn't take him very long to come up with it. He was kind of caught off guard because he didn't realize what our intent was, and yeah, he offered to join, and It's nice too because I mean, like we always say, we have the luxury of Russ Elder, our producer, and Thunder Sound Studio, and so we had a lot for him to be able to come in to this environment that we're very comfortable in and create without any barriers, right? And with us, who we've been together for long enough that we're able to kind of foster some of that, songwriting ability, right? Like James and I and Brendan, we've been writing music for so long, right? So for us, it's kind of like we have it broken down to almost like a science. So we've been able to, share that with Dre, and Dre's been, incredibly enthusiastic. And he comes to the studio with a riff idea, and then he's always shocked because by the end of the night, we walk away with a file that's like a full-on piece of music, right? That he can go show his family and his friends and all of that, right? So it's kind of we each get to benefit from this as a result, and we're incredibly happy and honored to have him as a part of like the Ultimatum family. So
Yeah, so when you started the project, was it also kind of because you didn't have a singer at that time? So you're like, well, let's kind of see who wants to jump on, and whether or not, I don't know if it was like intentionally like, hey, let's search for a new singer, or if it just kind of happened.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely an intention with trying to find someone to come in full time. Our previous singer is, life gets the better of you sometimes, and family and stuff like that, and we we kind of recognized that it might just be time to kind of shift gears and kind of go our separate ways. So yeah, it was a bit of an unknown. We didn't really have a great plan for how we were going to make this work. Especially like Cam said, we've been, the three of us have been together since 18 years ago. So to come into that, I would imagine would be very intimidating, no matter who you are. And so we knew it was going to be a bit of a challenge, and it was going to take a unique personality, and that unique personality also, well, had to be able to sing, right? And Dre has checked, pretty much, I would say, every box that we kind of laid out and said, okay, what do we need? And he's come in, he's fit in really well. He's a few years younger. He brings a maybe a youthful spirit into the studio as well. A little more energy perhaps on a night where we've been stuck at work all day and maybe a little tired, and he'll pick us right back up. So it's been fantastic working with him.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, of course. I'm glad you guys are still rocking though. 'Cause that's, you know, when people just continue doing what they love and a band sticks together, that's pretty tough, to be honest. I've gone through a few different bands, and you know, some of them didn't really like break up. It's just life, relationships. Sometimes people have, problems they have to take care of, or it's just work and everything. So I'm glad you guys are still rocking 18 years.
mhm.
Yeah, I think my math's right with that one.
How's the 18
Yeah.
years been? You guys had the moments where you're like, dude, I'm so sick of you, man. You're just
Well,
like,
it's like any family, right? Like that's, I always equate it to like a family structure, and you go through ups and downs and creative differences. I think that's normal of anyone who's passionate about something that they're working on with other people, right? Like we never align. Like over the years we understand each other's kind of personalities a little bit more, and but there's always creative differences, right? Like
oh, yeah.
even some of the fine details, and so that's normal. I think we've just learned how to cope with that and how to communicate better with one another. And I always say this, and I said it even earlier, is if it wasn't for the studio, like Thunder Sound Studio, and Russ, our producer, Russ Elder, that makes it so much easier for us to be able to get a lot done without everyone needing to necessarily be there, right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
yeah, like last Thursday, it was, Brendan stopped by as well, but it was, James laying down some bass tracks for this new album. And, it's myself, Russ, and James, right? And we had an incredibly productive night where we got a lot done. Where if we didn't have that studio, let's say, and let's say we were prepping for a show, you kind of need at least the majority of the people in the band to be there in order to actually have the ability to rehearse properly.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh,
with the studio,
and not
sorry, James, go ahead.
sorry, not to cut you off, but like even to that point, right? Like, say we were in a studio, but we were renting out that space,
Yeah,
right? All of a sudden that adds up as well. So again, just to emphasize the importance that I think Cam's trying to hammer home here is having that ability to just kind of come and go as we need is unmatched, really.
Yeah, for sure.
through COVID too, right? Because like we were trying to follow the public health guidelines, right? Like we were trying to be responsible. And so when we had those little pockets of it where we were able to actually get together, we would take advantage of that, right? So we would share ideas through email, and then we'd get together, and it was we were able to release and be what we've been called prolific because we seem to pump music out relatively quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't really slow us down. Actually, it gave us the ability to with the studio, it gave us the ability to release music and then go back into isolation and have these conversations that we're having now, right? So it actually worked in our favor. So it's cool because we're like a team essentially. We're like a sports team. We all have our strengths. We all have our kind of positions. They overlap a little bit here and there, but I mean, ultimately, we have it down to a bit of a science, and we're really trying to leverage, social media and even just podcasts, right, as being like another huge source of just being able to connect with different people all over the world, which has just been a massive thing for us, right? And like James mentioned, Dre's youthful enthusiasm when he comes to the studio, I think that really pumps our tires too when we can, when we can hear someone over in Greece talk about how our song has impacted them. That's like, wow, like here we are in Thunder Bay, in the winter where it's cold and it's desolate and isolated, and we get to hear from someone across on the other side of the world that our music has impacted them in some form, some sort of way. And that also kind of, I think, brings up a lot of energy and kind of focus in terms of like what we're doing actually really matters and is impacting people, and that's important.
Yeah, I definitely love how nowadays it is easier for us to connect like internationally, like technically
Mhm.
Canada and America. I think you guys are the only ones I've connected with, in another country.
Oh,
Although you're
really?
just like right over there. For me, which I've spoken in the past, I'm on like the west end of America, the northwest. You guys over on the east.
Yeah.
Um, but
Just north
hopefully
of
one day we'll
like
be able to
Minneapolis
connect in
area.
person.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be dope.
That would be sick. That'd be really cool. Yeah,
You
like James mentioned,
guys,
we're not far from the border. Like we're not far from the border. We're about 45-minute drive.
uh,
Minneapolis. We're just north of Minneapolis on Lake Superior. That's the best way I can describe it. Yeah.
nice. Well, one day I'm sure we'll be able to connect. You guys, have you been playing much live, or do you still have like goals of traveling?
That's an interesting question. We talk about that ourselves every once in a while. It is to travel from Thunder Bay is a commitment. It is a big chunk of time. You got to drive 8 hours just to get to a city worth playing in, no matter which way you go. So I don't know. Like
Financially,
it's
it's always a
always,
thing too.
yeah,
You know.
right, yeah. I think that's the big hurdle. Honestly, like we went and we've done the touring gig a little bit here and there, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong. Like it's a blast. You get spend all that time together, and you generate so many more new ideas just from that experience alone. But it just has to make sense. Like the timing would have to be right, and there's a lot of factors at play. We definitely would never sit here and say no. That's not something we want to do. It
Mhm.
just there are a lot of calculations go into it. So
Dude, especially even now for like, of course I see it for a lot of older bands too that may have been like a really big 80s band. I'm sure even just more modern bands that have been successful in the last, 5 or 10 years. The touring and finances of all that is just so tough for everybody. Unless you're like Taylor Swift or, Metallica's still, you know, Metallica. But
I think
it's
it's the industry, like the way the
yeah.
industry is that you have one of two options, right? People, I think they're under that false illusion that it was like it was in the 80s or 90s or, before that. And it's not, right? Like you see a lot of these bands and you would assume them to be successful. And success is all, dependent upon the individual, right? Like we're able to get our music heard internationally in terms of our definition, we're successful artists. But to make, like, as you know too, Jake, like the album sales are non-existent because they're not, albums aren't as easy to listen to because they don't even have albums like CD players in cars anymore, right? So
Oh yeah.
it's one of those things where it becomes, it's a fork in the road. It's either you live on the road as an artist, as a touring artist, and that's the only source of income, right? Or you find other ways to be able to, because like with us, we have so many different things that are, that we're doing, that we commit our time to, because we're just very busy individuals, right?
Oh yeah.
And so we need to find time for everything to kind of coexist with one another. And and James, like James mentioned, we've been on the road before. We've gone on a tour, and we've done that. But it's almost like we can actually reach more people, weirdly enough, by just doing this, or just pushing a single out there, and utilizing Instagram and social media, and you can reach people on the other side of the world through that song, versus in the 70s or 80s, where if you wanted to be on the radio in Scotland, you'd have to go tour Scotland, right? And we've been fortunate to work with our label in the States, and we were able to be on the radio a bunch in Scotland, right? So it's kind of like we're just trying to take advantage of, I think, some of the things that are at our disposal, but also trying to be aware of kind of like the climate, right? And understanding like things just are different now, right? And if you're going to make art, whoever the artist is, if you're going to make money as an artist, you do need to basically tour, and that's it, right? Sure, releasing new music helps, but you're not going to profit off of new music, right? Because Spotify, Apple, great source of being able to push the music, but not a great source of income. Merch, well, in order to sell merch, you kind of have to go on the road, and so it all kind of boils down to either you're living on the road, or you're able to kind of make social media and those different outlets work for you, basically. And we're trying to do the latter. But to James's point, it's not out of the equation, right? Like, if it makes sense to go we'll do it 100%. We'll make that work, but it has to make sense given the current musical climate that's happening. So
Yeah, it seems like if you are able to, well, I guess nowadays, like, of course, going out and performing is fun. It's cool. Of course, if it's rewarding financially, it's a great experience in itself, connecting with people performing live. But nowadays, with the internet, of course, it's like, man, if there was just that one breakthrough, viral little social media content where that song gets out there and then it filters people back in. And it seems like if a bunch of growth can be made on the internet, that these people are like, whoa, I dig this band. And then maybe the interest in all the merchandise goes up. Then it's like, okay, now it's going to be easier potentially to go out and play more worthwhile shows and everything, because the audience has grown so much
mhm.
through the internet.
Yeah, but even that comes with a expiration date, because if you have something that catches and it's a gimmick, for example, then once that gimmick subsides, you have to come up with another gimmick, right? Like, that's the other thing I think a lot of people miss out on, is that it's not like that's it and that's done. It's that that's a little spark, right? How do you sustain that flame, right? If you can't sustain it, it's going to go out. So but the good part about what we do is, like, we're not worried about the financial side of things, right? For us, it's more about the artistic side of things, where it's, we're artists first and foremost. And, we're able to, have a bunch of other streams of kind of, income and stuff like that, where the band is more of like, how do we be as creative as humanly possible, and something that's true to us, and then be able to then push that internationally, so other people can enjoy this art that that we believe in and that we've created, right? So I mean, as long as we're writing music we love, we've won, right? I think it's when we start writing music for other people that it's kind of like, which I think a lot of artists today potentially could do, right? If they're trying to you know, trying to appease the masses. And for us, I think we just believe in what we do, and we're appeasing ourselves first and foremost. And if we're doing that, we know there's an audience out there for that, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, staying true to yourself is definitely the way
Yeah.
to go. Yo, I was checking out this Stereo Waves.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
actually have to check out the album. I didn't realize this. I've been a little disconnected from social media. I'm getting better at it now that we got the studio in town where I'm like, I have to be on social. So I've been more on Facebook because it's like localized really good. I need to be on Instagram more,
Mm.
which I think is originally how we've connected through
Yep.
Instagram. Do you do the other social medias too?
I don't think it's something that we're focusing on. I think the Instagram and the Facebook are the two main streams that we've been attached to. Like, I mean, YouTube. I don't know if that social media. It's kind of
Not
its
the
own
same,
thing,
right? As
right? So yeah,
but
I
I'm a
mean, we had
YouTuber.
to.
I'm like everything I listen to, music, I usually listen through YouTube.
Mm.
I don't know why. It's just
Yeah, we're trying to do better at that now. Like even with this new music video. Yeah, primarily I think we have our Instagram and Facebook linked together. So as soon as I post something on Instagram, it goes to Facebook and kind of, you know, but I don't actively monitor Facebook, but I know we have all the you know, the different forms of social media, but we're right now kind of committing to more of the YouTube side of things, right? Because we're doing a lot more videos, some promo videos as well. So
uh-huh.
we're actually just creating almost like 1 minute or just shy of 1 minute snippets of each song on the album,
Yeah, that's
and we're
good.
sharing that through Instagram, right? So it's almost like a teaser or a commercial. So you know, we've released two singles. We've released "Call to Me" and "No One in the Sky." And the album, they're going to be on the album, and the album's called "Through Darkness, Through Fire." And
Yeah.
that's going to be released in January. But we're going to release at least one more single, I think, just before that album's released. And then in the background, we're like generating these videos and these promos in order to you know, give a little bit more away of what the album's actually gonna, you know, gonna entail, because we just believe very strongly in what we've just done in terms of the album, and the fact that we've been able to do it with a with Dre, someone who isn't as familiar with writing original material, and it's just as good as anything, in my opinion, anything we've ever done, if not better, right? I think some people are saying, but it's yeah, it's really rewarding. Like it's a it's a really cool experience. So naturally, we want to be able to kind of leak a little bit more of it, because we believe so strongly in like some of the ideas and the concepts, you know, within the album. So, and the artwork looks sick too. James just showed us the artwork, potential
Hmm.
artwork for it, and it looks wicked. So I have to give
Dope.
credit where credit's due. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna let you know too. I did get like a 10-minute warning on this meeting.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, we can always turn on another one too. I know you got to roll out possibly, James. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've got the counter here at the top of the screen. It says there's about 7.5 minutes left.
Oh
I
yeah.
figure when that's up, that's probably a good time for me anyway. So
Okay. Yeah. Dude, that's way to go. It's cool that you guys are lining it up, prepping, especially those shorter videos. I feel like it's so much easier to like kind of reach people with those short videos, like reach a wider audience. Um, just because of attention spans, probably nowadays,
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like the doom scrolling thing.
Yeah.
Um, I just have another question too about, have you guys ever experimented more with like the AI stuff for any visuals or anything like that? Because it's something I've been playing with a bit more for making music videos or lyric videos or little promo videos.
I don't think it's something that we've tried. Again, I don't think we'd ever say no to something, but hasn't really been something we've considered at this point.
I wouldn't be
Yeah,
opposed to. Sorry, Jake. To your, yeah. It's James is right. I don't think we would use AI. Actually, I know I can pretty confidently say we're not going to use AI when it comes to the music we make. You
right.
know, like we're like I said, our producer is very just he's just phenomenal at what he does, right, Russ? And the quality of material that we get out of it too, like the fidelity and just what he's able to do, right? It is just it's really staggering, right? And it definitely holds up, if not, exceeds some of the, the other music that's out there, just because of his expertise in that space. But when it comes to the visual side of things, like you just mentioned, it's not something I've thought about in the background a little bit. Not opposed to doing that, right? Like if it's especially if it's like a lyric video, or there's just some visuals kind of going on to help support the music and kind of work with the music. I'm not opposed to that. I think that that's actually a probably a pretty smart thing to leverage, because essentially, like, we don't really fancy ourselves as, like, video creators, or like we're musicians, but the video side of things helps push the music, right? So yeah, it might not be actually a bad idea for even us just to touch base on the side on that and see what you're doing, and if there's ways I can kind of integrate that in some of the video stuff we're doing, that'd be cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Of course, musically, I've played around with a bunch of different AI, Chat GPT, because even as a
Mhm.
graphic designer, music producer, video production, I'm like, shit, this is gonna steal my job.
Yeah,
AI.
yeah,
But then again, I'm like, it's just like another tool at times to use to have in your toolbox. But the music stuff, it's like you can't really, there's things humans can do that AI just is never really going to be able to
yeah,
really do. And like you said, the fidelity of music and recording and the band, like, of course, like the fellowship in a band, you just can't really recreate that.
No,
yeah.
it does a lot of impressive things. Don't get me wrong. I've used AI for a lot of different projects and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
it doesn't have a place in terms of creating music like we can. I know that probably sounds pretty cocky, but
No.
No, no. I mean,
The human element, right? Like, it's
yeah.
something about, even James, like if he hits the note, James plays the bass with his fingers, right? And
mhm.
there's something very, very specific in that sound. It's almost percussive, right? And just the slide of the finger on the strings, right? There's something
Yeah.
beautiful in that, right? Or even human error, right? Like, I love listening to, like, Crosby, Stills and Nash. I love listening to some of their unreleased stuff and how raw it sounds, and it's like, that's beautiful. There's a guy in a guitar, or a guy in a piano, or a girl and like, it doesn't matter. It's something that's really, I think, magical in that space where you have a songwriter, an artist who's painting essentially with sound, and you take that painter away, right? It becomes something that's just not, it just loses some of that magic, right? But, like, to James's point too, like, finding a way to make AI work for us in terms of, like, just a visual representation, or like that's a cool idea, right? But I think there's a definite line where, um once it exceeds that line, I'm sure it can do some really cool things. But I think we're going to reach a point with AI when it reaches, like, a kind of a climax, and then we're going to regress again. It's like anything, right? Where
Yeah.
the ebbs and flows kind of thing, right? Where it's like, oh well, was that done with AI? And it's almost like a bad thing, right? It's almost going to be more of like a faux pas. That's just what I think will end up happening. But it's definitely cool, in order, if we can leverage it as a tool, for a visual uh, kind of thing, then that's awesome.
Yeah. It's probably kind of similar to like when movies started doing a lot of CGI and not as much like uh
Great example.
real
Yeah,
effects. Um,
that's a great example.
but yeah. Since there's only 2 minutes left on here, I don't know if you want to pop back on Cam and chop it up for a bit, or if we're just gonna, call it a podcast after this couple minutes. Um,
It's up to you, Jake. You make the call. I'm good with either. I think, ultimately, I think we covered most of what we wanted to.
yeah,
I think
I think
it's
so.
Yeah, I think it's just the few things to note are just the continual, like, for people who are following us, and we're going to continue to release music videos and promos, and If you haven't yet, please check out Call to Me and No One in the Sky. We're very proud of those, and stay tuned for our third single and shortly thereafter. And I think we're discussing January. We're going to release the full length album, which is Through Darkness Through Fire. And yeah, it's going to have 8 songs, and we're very excited to release this because it's almost like it's very integral to the Ultimatum sound, but it's adding a new element that fits really well in that. So I'm super excited to hear what people think of the single so far, and what people think of the album once January rolls around. So
Cool. We're down to the wire. Well, it's good to chat with you guys. Anything you'd like to say as well, James, as a goodbye note?
Just a big thanks for having us, Jake. Like I said, I know you've worked with Cam previously through this type of format. It was great getting to meet you as well, and getting a chance to talk.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Well, we'll set up another one sometime, maybe around the release.
Absolutely.
That would be amazing, buddy. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. All right. Well, I might as well say goodbye before I get cut.
Yeah, sounds good, buddy. Good
All right,
to
guys.
see you. Have a great
Take care.
day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Later.